Now, I want you to think about the following questions with the intention to answer freely. What kind of education do you see as worthwhile to provide and to have? What if we fostered unity in inclusive and comfortable environments for young people that allows us to show up as our best selves? What if the current schooling and wider education system was a positive vehicle in recognising your unique contribution to the world? Now, young people and education are at the heart of tackling both local and global issues. Now, the questions I presented are linked to 3 key pillars that I believe are essential to transforming our approach to young people that can and should be implemented in the education system: personal transformation, unity, and service. Now, I became obsessed with personal transformation a few years ago when I realised that system change starts with one individual with one big idea. However, to change systems externally, we have to change our own mindsets internally. And the first key aspect is understanding that we should not define ourselves but based on society's ideals and expectations. Now, not only is this dangerous because it translates into our reality, it is harmful as it affects our principles, core values, habits, and choices we make, and ultimately the impacts that we can have on the world. Now, what if these false limiting beliefs in our minds were exposed? What if we were taught to live beyond society's ideals? What if we pursued ideas once labelled as childish, impractical, and/or unrealistic? Now, amidst the uncertainty and unrest this past year, our limiting beliefs have indeed been exposed. When so many things are changing and challenging around us, we naturally tend to gravitate towards our limiting beliefs because they present that false sense of safety and security. I don't have the ability. I don't have the experience. I'm just not good enough. By identifying the limiting beliefs we hold and reflecting on how that belief has revealed itself in decisions we make and connections we pursue, you can then change your own beliefs to align with what you truly want. Now, the second aspect is not being afraid to selectively choose certain rules to follow, and also not using somebody else's blueprint as a measure for your success. Now, success is relative to each and every one of us. Success is not quantifiable only by an individual's distinct set of values, ambitions, and dreams. Now, rules are designed to keep both you and I safe, but isn't that what our brains keep score of? Now, let me give you an example. If I accidentally touch a hot pan, my hand will retract its stimulus and response. If I now stand on the edge of this stage, I will move back. Why? Because I might hurt myself. Because I might fall. Now, your brain is designed to keep you safe and not necessarily rules. And oftentimes what we'll find is the thing that we are scared of is the thing we really, really want to pursue, but take no action in doing so because we allow our fear to overtake our courage and faith. Now, faith is a living and daring confidence that exercises our resilience and our imagination, pushing us towards our discomfort zone because it enables us to thrive. And the third key aspect is shifting the focus from outcome to identity. Now, the education system usually only focuses on the final outcome and disregards our own shifting and complex identities. In Atomic Habits by James Clear, he says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." Now, this really, really struck me because all this time as students, we are expected to achieve a certain benchmark. Teachers are expected to hit certain targets. And so this great deal of pressure and toxic competition is unhealthy for everybody involved. And we start to look for external sources of affirmation instead of starting with the most powerful source, ourselves. Now, most mornings I will wake up just like everyone else and write a to-do list and a to-be list. I'll affirm who I want to be, shifting the focus from outcome to identity. I want to be, complete the sentence with me. I want to be confident. I want to be connected. I want to be healthy. It keeps you grounded in your core values, gift, and personal mission, because if we are grounded, we can grow. Now, the second pillar is unity. Unity is thinking and acting in ways that unite us to ourselves, to others, and to all of life itself. It is collectively operating from a place of care in an increasingly polarized world. And the first aspect is that we need effective collaboration in schools, institutions, organizations, and services in which our ideas are not taken as tokenistic, but rather directly embedded within policymaking. Because please, don't claim to be collaborative if only one side truly benefits. Now, we need to be consulted on what to learn, how to learn, what is important to us, and then have the space in order to do this. Whether that's young people leading classes and lessons, doing project-based learning instead of studying subjects with a weak link to a distant subject every now and then to check off a box. A multidisciplinary approach to learning is not a want. It is a need. It is a must in today's society so that we are equipped to tackle issues in a multi-layered and structural way. But young people, educators, policymakers, visionaries, artists, leaders, and everybody else, we need to be united to achieve this. Now, the second aspect is that a sharp decline in our cultural arts spaces, youth organisations, libraries, open parks, green areas and leisure centres directly correlates to a sharp decline in social and civic imagination. Now, we need to cultivate public spaces that bridge people from all walks of life because no two experiences are ever the same, no matter how alike they may seem. It is appreciating the nuances in people's stories, ideas, cultures, and histories in a safe, inclusive, and comfortable environment. There is so much work being done about this already, especially in this diverse and multicultural young city in Birmingham, but we also need to engage young people in this too, by listening to them. Not by listening to each other to respond, but deeply listening to understand before formulating our responses. Now, storytelling and poetry is a way that I do this, that fosters the human connection, whilst also being an inviting and powerful source for discussion and direct change. And yet, we push this to a side instead of focusing on the skills of oracy and performance. Now, the third aspect within unity is that authentic communities can only be cultivated with accountability, real long-term commitment, and a sincere desire to act, build, and create change. And now this means acknowledging how power and privilege plays a crucial role in sidelining marginalised and underrepresented communities, especially families that live in low socioeconomic areas and communities of colour, especially when talking about decolonising the education system. Now, funding and resources are disproportionately distributed, and oftentimes government and organisations and services that are intended to serve and protect us often propagate the structures that indicate certain voices and certain lives are valued more than others. Now, unity is to elevate human consciousness. It is to work and change the environment that has imposed the silence in the first place for us to then all live in a society in which all voices, no matter what medium they are presented in, are valued and respected. Now, the third and final pillar is service. As a youth advocate, I often get asked the question, why? Why go through the effort? And I admit that is long, hard, and sometimes stressful. But through personal growth, which is life-changing, and it's lifelong work, and uniting with other people aligned with the same principles and core values as I am, I really understand that it is not enough to hope for a better society and a better world. We need to be committed to working towards one. By setting up alternative and sustainable small-scale models of education, we can imagine, explore, experiment, innovate, and actually work towards quantifiable and tangible change. Structural change without human connection and imagination will not be enforced and effective, but vice versa. Human connection without legislation and a clear focus on implementation does little to contribute to the reality of everybody's daily lives. Now, I've increased in confidence and I've had the opportunity to gain a different perspective and shift the way of my thinking, creating a greater sense of community. Now, it's not that young people don't want to become involved in taking action, but because we don't believe in our unique contribution to the world and are unsure of ways to get involved, thus limiting our possibilities and narrowing our world view. Now, we all exist and live within these intricate fabrics of our society, so neutrality is not often afforded to people who look like me. Now, in a resurgence of student-led movements across the city, the country, and indeed the world, it occurred to me that most problems, say the world's largest humanitarian crisis in Yemen right now, that places profit over the lives of Yemeni people, a whole genocide in China with the ethnic cleansing of the Uyghur Muslims, the racial inequality, systemic racism, Islamophobia, and much more, are all issues that have stemmed from the decisions that adults have made and are being upheld by the structures that they govern. So I think it's time for young people to rightfully step up and dare to dream and act in creating a better world, starting off with a transformative education system. Now, let's imagine if this was implemented. We would be confident, at one with ourselves and others, and with all of life. We'd be taught political literacy, how to critically think. Because in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., we can derive fact from fiction with education. We would understand the power of storytelling to shape our narratives, climate education to create a sustainable world, and hold and have rich and meaningful discussions and conversations. We would possess the project management skills to take an idea and then execute it. We would be financially competent, and abundance mentality would envelope, that there is plenty enough for everyone else. We would understand how to look after our mental well-being so much more. Our local areas would be places of refuge and not just of residence. So I urge you to join me today, because now is the time to grow resilience. Now is the time to re-evaluate. Now is the time to redesign, reimagine, re-envision, reorganize, repurpose, reflect, reclaim, and remember that we as individuals are far, far more impactful when we give ourselves the permission to seek and imagine a renewed sense of possibility for our communities, in which we develop into active citizens instead of onlookers, with a limitless potential to redefine our lives on our terms. Thank you.